When we begin to reflect on Ayat al Kursi, we're not just reading a verse, we're stepping into a divine description of Allah's majesty and power that leaves no room for doubt, fear, or weakness. This verse, found in Surah Al-Baqarah, is often called the greatest verse in the Qur'an, and there's a reason for that. It is not merely about protection from harm, it is about understanding who Allah truly is. Because when you truly know who your Lord is, everything else in life becomes easier to face. Ayat al Kursi opens with a statement so profound that it anchors the entire verse. Al-Hayyul-Qayyoom, Allah. There is no deity worthy of worship except Him, the ever-living, the sustainer of all existence. These are not just attributes, they are realities that shape our world. Allah is alive in the most complete sense, never sleeping, never fading, never needing. He sustains everything that exists, from the galaxies above to the smallest cell within you. Think about that. Every heartbeat, every breath, every sunrise, every law of nature sustained by His will. When this truth sinks in, you stop feeling small in a chaotic world. You realize you are held by the one who holds everything. The verse continues to describe His knowledge. He knows what is before them and what is behind them. This means that Allah's awareness covers every past, present, and future event, every hidden thought, every secret emotion. It's an incredible psychological reassurance. We often feel misunderstood, unseen, or uncertain about the future. But here, Allah reminds us that nothing escapes His knowledge. You may not know what tomorrow holds, but you know the one who holds tomorrow. Then, Ayat al Kursi tells us, His Kursi extends over the heavens and the earth, and He feels no fatigue in guarding them. The word Kursi, often translated as throne, represents authority, dominion, control. Allah's power is not symbolic, it's absolute. The heavens and the earth are under His command, sustained without effort or exhaustion. This challenges us to rethink power itself. Human beings grow tired, governments collapse, empires rise and fall. But Allah's rule is beyond decay, beyond time, beyond challenge. The verse shatters every illusion of independence. Nothing operates outside His will, not even a leaf that falls from a tree. From a psychological perspective, this verse dismantles the anxiety that comes from trying to control everything. It teaches surrender, but not in the sense of giving up. Rather, surrender in the sense of trust. You begin to live with a calm heart because you understand that your protector is the same one who governs the stars. That awareness changes how you respond to pain, loss, or fear. You stop asking, "Why me?" and start saying, "I know He knows best." Ayat al Kursi is not just meant to be memorized, it's meant to be lived. When you internalize it, you see the world differently. You stop chasing false sources of power. You stop depending on people who can't even sustain themselves. You begin to walk through life knowing that you're protected by the one who never sleeps, never weakens, and never forgets. And that is the beginning of real strength, knowing that your heart rests under the watch of the ever-living, the sustainer of all. When we look deeper into Ayat al Kursi, we find that at its heart lies the most powerful concept in all of Islam, Tawheed, the absolute oneness of Allah. This verse is not simply describing divine qualities, it's reaffirming a world view, a way of seeing existence itself. Tawheed is not an abstract idea, it's the foundation that holds together your faith, your sense of identity, your purpose, and your peace of mind. Every phrase in Ayat al Kursi brings you back to that singular truth that Allah alone deserves your worship, your fear, your trust, and your love. When Allah says, Allahu la ilaha illa huwa, He is reminding you that nothing else, no person, no power, no possession has any authority beside Him. Reflect on that for a moment. Most of our daily anxiety, frustration, and disappointment come from attaching our hearts to things that were never meant to hold that weight. We depend on people's approval, we rely on money, we fear loss, we chase control, and when these things fail us, we collapse. Tawheed liberates you from that illusion. It pulls your heart away from creation and anchors it in the Creator. When you live with Tawheed, you stop being a slave to your circumstances. You rise above them because your trust is in the one who created those circumstances in the first place. Ayat al Kursi also reminds us that Allah is Al-Hayyul-Qayyoom, the ever living, the sustainer. Everything depends on him, yet he depends on no one. This is not just theology, it's a psychological transformation. Think about it, every human being you rely on will eventually fail you in some way, not out of cruelty, but simply because they are human. But Allah never fails, never forgets, never fades. Understanding this gives you emotional stability. You stop expecting perfection from people and start finding strength in your connection with Allah. That's Tawheed in practice, not just believing in one God, but living as if only He controls your destiny. Philosophically, Tawheed dismantles the illusion of duality, the idea that good and bad, success and failure, are random or outside divine wisdom. It teaches you that everything in life operates under one unified will. Even what feels like chaos has divine order behind it. The believer who grasps this doesn't become passive, they become calm, grounded, resilient. They work hard, they strive, but they do it with serenity, because they know that outcomes are never in their hands. They belong to Allah, the one who never makes mistakes. This is why Ayat al Kursi is more than a verse of protection. It is a verse of awakening. It reminds you that every act of worship, every prayer, every moment of patience is rooted in acknowledging Allah's oneness. When your heart truly accepts Tawheed, fear begins to dissolve. Because how can you fear creation when the Creator Himself has promised to protect you? So, the next time you recite Allahu la ilaha illa huwa, don't just say it, feel it. Let it settle in your heart as the truth that defines your existence. Everything you need, everything you love, and everything you fear, all of it belongs to Him. And when you live by that truth, you will find a peace that no storm can ever take away. When we speak about the power and beauty of Ayat al Kursi, one of its most profound dimensions is the protection it offers. The Prophet Muhammad described this verse not only as one of the greatest in the Qur'an, but as a shield that guards the believer from harm physically, spiritually, and emotionally. It is a verse that carries with it divine security, and when we truly understand that, it changes the way we approach our faith and our fears. There are authentic narrations that emphasize this protection in remarkable ways. The Prophet said that whoever recites Ayat al Kursi after every obligatory prayer, nothing stands between that person and paradise except death. In another hadith, he told us that whoever recites it before going to sleep will be protected by Allah throughout the night, and no shaitan will come near until morning. Now, think about that for a moment. This is not a symbolic protection, it is real spiritual safeguarding from the unseen forces that seek to harm, misguide, or disturb the peace of your heart. But there's a deeper layer here. Protection in Islam is not just about avoiding physical danger. It's about safeguarding your iman, your sense of peace, your clarity, and your emotional balance. When you recite Ayat al Kursi, you're not just asking Allah to protect your body, you're seeking to protect your mind from doubt, your heart from despair, and your soul from distraction. It's a declaration that you are entrusting your entire being to the one who never sleeps and never forgets. In our modern world, we're constantly bombarded by uncertainty, anxiety, and noise. Many people feel unprotected, mentally exhausted, spiritually disconnected. We look for safety in locks, in systems, in people, in wealth. Yet the verse reminds us that true security lies only in the one who holds every moment of existence under his control. When you make Ayat al Kursi part of your daily routine, you are, in a way, reprogramming your inner world to align with divine order. You begin to live with the awareness that you are never alone, that your life is under constant watch and care. There's also a psychological effect. Regular recitation of Ayat al Kursi instills calmness. It creates a rhythm of remembrance, a habit of anchoring your heart in certainty. You stop reacting to fear. You start responding with faith. You begin to walk through challenges, not with panic, but with poise, because deep down, you know who guards you. It is as if this verse becomes a fortress within your heart, shielding you from both external harm and internal turmoil. And what's even more beautiful is that this protection is not limited to scholars, saints, or imams. It's for every believer, a mother, a student, a traveler, a worker, anyone who turns to Allah sincerely. The doors of divine protection are always open. You just have to walk through them with remembrance and faith. So, let Ayat al Kursi be your daily armor. Recite it after every prayer, before sleep, when you leave your home, when you feel uncertain. Carry it in your heart as your spiritual shield. Because the one who recites Ayat al Kursi with belief and understanding walks through life surrounded by a protection that no force visible or unseen can ever penetrate. When we talk about the power of Ayat al Kursi, we often think of protection from external harm, from shaitan, from danger, from the unseen. But one of its most overlooked dimensions is the way it protects us from within, from our own fears, doubts, and anxieties. This verse doesn't just guard your body, it fortifies your heart and mind. It reminds you of divine reality in a world that constantly tries to distract you with illusion. If you study Ayat al Kursi closely, you'll notice that every phrase speaks directly to the deepest human concerns. We fear loss because we forget that Allah is Al-Hayyul-Qayyoom, the ever-living, the sustainer. We feel anxious about the future because we forget that His knowledge covers all things. He knows what is before them and what is behind them. We feel helpless when things go wrong because we forget that His Kursi extends over the heavens and the earth. In each line, Allah gently dismantles the psychological roots of fear and worry. It's not just a verse, it's therapy for the soul. There's something deeply healing about recognizing that you are under the control of a Lord who never forgets you, never gets tired, and never makes mistakes. Many people today live with constant anxiety because they've placed their trust in temporary things, in people, in careers, in systems that can collapse overnight. Ayat al Kursi pulls you back to the truth. Your stability doesn't depend on this world. It depends on the one who controls it. When you internalize that, your heart begins to rest. This is where the psychological depth of the Qur'an shines. It doesn't tell you to ignore your emotions or pretend that life isn't difficult. It acknowledges your pain, but it redirects your focus. The verse reminds you, yes, the world can be unpredictable, but your Lord is not. Yes, people may abandon you, but Allah never will. Yes, you may not understand everything happening to you, but Allah's knowledge encompasses it all, and His wisdom never errs. Ayat al Kursi also teaches emotional discipline. When you remind yourself of Allah's complete control, you stop trying to control what isn't yours to begin with. You let go of the illusion of total power, and that surrender, that trust brings peace. You still strive, you still make effort, but you do it without panic, without despair, because you know the one managing your affairs does not sleep, does not tire, and does not forget. From a spiritual perspective, this is the highest form of empowerment. True strength isn't the absence of struggle, it's the ability to remain calm within it, because your heart is anchored to the one who governs all. When you recite Ayat al Kursi regularly, you're not just saying words, you're reinforcing this mental and spiritual state. You're reminding your mind that fear has no place where faith stands firm. So, the next time anxiety grips your heart, pause and recite this verse. Reflect on its meaning, line by line. Let it reframe your thoughts and silence your doubts. Because when you remember who your protector truly is, even your fears begin to bow in submission. Ayat al Kursi is not a verse meant to remain confined to the pages of the Qur'an or the moments of prayer. It's meant to be lived. Its true impact is felt when it becomes part of your daily rhythm, woven into the ordinary moments of life. It's easy to see it as something sacred for special occasions, but the reality is that its blessings are most powerful when they are constant. The Prophet Muhammad didn't teach us to recite Ayat al Kursi occasionally. He encouraged us to make it a habit after every obligatory prayer, before sleeping, before leaving our homes. Why? Because consistency builds connection. The more you engage with the verse, the more it shapes your heart, your thoughts, and your perspective on life. In the modern world, our minds are constantly occupied. We wake up reaching for our phones, go through the day reacting to notifications, and fall asleep exhausted. Our hearts are rarely still long enough to reflect. That's why bringing Ayat al Kursi into daily life is so transformative. It breaks through that noise. It brings a pause, a moment of remembrance amidst the chaos. When you recite it before stepping out, you're not just saying words, you're acknowledging that your safety lies with Allah. When you recite it before sleeping, you're handing over your worries to the one who never sleeps. When you recite it after prayer, you're sealing your connection with divine protection until the next moment of worship. What's powerful is that this habit doesn't just protect you spiritually, it refocuses your psychology. Regular remembrance builds emotional resilience. It grounds you in faith. It reminds you that your day is not random, it is guided. Every time you recite Ayat al Kursi with awareness, you're realigning your mind with the truth of Allah's presence and control. It's like resetting your spiritual compass several times a day, and this isn't limited to adults or scholars. It's something every Muslim can do, parents teaching it to their children, students reciting it before exams, travelers before journeys, families together before sleep. Imagine growing up in a home where this verse is part of the daily routine, where children know that no matter what happens outside, their house is a place of remembrance and divine protection. That kind of environment builds a deep sense of security, not just physical, but emotional and spiritual. Even when life becomes heavy, when challenges test your patience, Ayat al Kursi reminds you that Allah's care never pauses. You could be driving, walking, or waiting. A quiet recitation reconnects you instantly. And that's what Islam teaches us. Spirituality isn't found only in the mosque. It's found in the moments between, in remembrance that lives in your everyday actions. So, make this verse part of your daily rhythm. Let it be the sound that begins and ends your day, the whisper that steadies your heart when things feel uncertain. Because when Ayat al Kursi becomes part of your life, not just your memory, you begin to walk through the world under Allah's constant watch, calm, confident, and unshakable. When we truly internalize the message of Ayat al Kursi, we begin to live under a kind of divine awareness, a consciousness that transforms the way we think, act, and respond to the world around us. This verse is not just a protection you recite, it's a perspective you carry. It teaches you to live every moment under the shadow of Allah's throne with humility, gratitude, and absolute trust in His authority. And that awareness, that taqwa, is what gives your life meaning and direction. When you live under Allah's protection, you no longer see yourself as vulnerable or alone. You understand that every challenge, every delay, every blessing is part of His plan. You stop measuring life by what you can control and start finding peace in what He controls. This is where true empowerment begins. Because the one who trusts Allah's will doesn't crumble when things go wrong. They stand firm, knowing that even difficulty carries divine wisdom. Ayat al Kursi reminds us of Allah's dominion, that His Kursi extends over the heavens and the earth, and that no one can intercede without His permission. Philosophically, this shifts the believer's entire understanding of power. In a world that glorifies control, status, and wealth, this verse humbles you. It teaches that every form of power in creation is borrowed, temporary, and limited, while Allah's power is absolute, eternal, and effortless. Once you realize this, your heart is freed from chasing worldly validation. You no longer feel the need to please everyone, because you understand that only Allah's approval truly matters. But there's also a psychological depth here. Living under Allah's throne of protection creates a mindset of calm confidence. It's not arrogance, it's serenity. You stop reacting to negativity with panic because you know who stands with you. You stop fearing people's opinions because you know that nothing can touch you unless Allah allows it. This awareness is like walking through life with spiritual armor, not because you're invincible, but because you're anchored in faith. That's why the believers who live by Ayat al Kursi often have a quiet strength about them. They face pain, loss, or uncertainty with patience and dignity. They may not have everything in this world, but their hearts are rich with contentment. And that's the power of living under Allah's throne. It gives you peace, even when life doesn't make sense. So, when you recite Ayat al Kursi, don't just think of it as a verse for protection, think of it as a declaration of your relationship with Allah. You are reminding yourself who your guardian is, who your sustainer is, and who truly governs every heartbeat, every breath, every moment. And perhaps that is the greatest motivation of all, to live each day with the certainty that you are never outside Allah's care. Because once your heart understands that, you no longer walk through life afraid, you walk through it aware, grateful, and completely at peace.